Well, isn't this a diverse and rather eclectic collection of knives you see before you on the table? Perhaps because I have something to talk about with you. It's the progressive nature of the knife collecting disease. The way that this hobby gets inside your head and your heart and makes you spend increasing amounts of money as time goes by. Stay with me, guys. We'll talk about this a little bit, and I'll have a surprise for you at the end. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the afternoon of 16 November 2014, and I've been in the middle of a little journey, a project with a dear friend of mine, brother in Christ and fellow knife addict here over the last few months, and I'm going to end the video by showing you the culmination of that project. But I want to talk about sort of what led up to it, and that's why you see these 9 folding knives in front of you on the table. I want to talk a little bit about how the knife habit, the knife hobby, a person's interest in knives progresses, and some of the rather humorous, although sometimes annoying things we go through in our journey. So I'm going to move these sort of out of the way and talk about them one at a time, not for very long, but whoops. Okay, first, see this? This is a kind of a knife that a lot of us might get as a gift or win with camel bucks were we still smoking. It's it's kind of a weird little slip joint, half stop liner lock, half serrated blade from Schrade, I believe. Not sure we can believe the USA on that one, but it's kind of cool. It's black. It's got a lanyard you can attach to your belt loop that has a quick release mechanism. I mean, how cool is that, right? But let's face it, if you're using this knife every day, pretty soon the edge is going to be all chewed up and the plain edge is going to look a lot like the serrated edge, and the serrated teeth are going to be gone, and you know how that goes. But you've kind of decided after you've carried this little sort of novelty knife for a while that you like carrying a pocket knife. And they're kind of cool how they move and how they lock and all that, or sort of lock. And you decide, yeah, I'd like to carry that, but this thing's kind of junk. What could I get next that might be a good tool for not a lot of money? Well, let's say you had $30 to spend and you graduated to this knife, and if you did, you would have made a really good choice entering the knife hobby. It does everything well. It's got superb lockup, albeit with a pretty skinny lock bar. It's got silky smooth action. I mean, it's just beautiful. Lightning fast deployment, good steel, AUS 8, great drop point blade shape, capable of taking a phenomenal edge. And you like that knife so much, now you're getting into knives and you think, man, I'd like something a little more heavy duty. Maybe instead of $30, maybe I'd be willing to spend, I don't know, as much as $50 on a knife. And you run across this company called Cold Steel Knives, and you might snag one of these heavy duty G10 triad lock knives from Cold Steel. They're like a freaking bank vault, and they cut like a razor, and they're easy enough to resharpen, and they're pretty cool, but kind of nondescript, aren't they? And now you've spent $50 on a knife, let's say, if you didn't get it on sale, and you've entered the realm of high quality Taiwanese knives, and after you use this for a while, you think, There has to be another step, doesn't there? Maybe I can afford something a little nicer than this. Although this does everything I need it to. It'll cut anything, it'll hold up to anything I throw at it. It's ergonomically superior in a variety of grips, but I yearn for the next step, don't I? Maybe I watched a Nuttin' Fancy video and I heard about a company called Benchmade. They have this cool little butterfly logo. Yeah. Their knives are made in Oregon, USA. Maybe I go to the entry level of Axis Lock designs with Benchmade. I get a Griptillion. I spend now $80 on a knife. And I like my little Benchmade so much that, and I really marvel at the strength and user friendliness of the lock. And I know that I've now perused the Benchmade catalog, and they make other knives that are more expensive. Benchmade does. Maybe because I am still a TNP'er, I score a 940. Now I've moved up into true Hall of Fameness. Now I've spent maybe $170. It's starting to get ridiculous. $170 for a folding pocket knife with a 3 7/16 inch blade. But now I am up in the super steel realm, aren't I? I got S30V. Maybe along the line, I've picked up a Spyderco Delica or an Endura when I was back here in the $50 to $80 stage. Maybe I really like that deployment method, but I found the VG10 steel wanting and the fiberglass reinforced nylon handles not quite as strong as they could be. And I heard about the Paramilitary 2, also an S30V steel with a rather high-tech innovative lock called the compression lock. This knife, fun to use like an Axis lock, but pure Spyderco. Again, excellent ergonomics and a variety of grips. A true high quality knife. Maybe I spent $130 on this one. After a while though, and sadly, viewing way too many at this point Nuttin' Fancy videos, I hear about this Italian company called Lion Steel, and they might just have a purple handled TNP edition knife. I might have to spend $200 for this. It's an integral 7000 series aluminum handled frame lock knife with a steel insert, D2 steel blade, wicked clip point. Now I've spent $200 on a knife. Where do I go next? Remind you, this $200 knife has the same cutting effect, actually not as good, a cutting aggression as this $30 Ontario Rat 2. Better cutter, more rugged, better steel. But they do the same things, sorta, don't they? Will this knife last longer? Possibly. But there's another stage. In fact, there are several more stages. If you bought this knife and maybe another one in the same price range, maybe a ZT 0550 or 0560, and let's say your romance was over with those two knives, you might be able to sell this knife and your zero tolerance to get a knife that not so long ago, when you were in this stage, you had only seen in pictures and videos. You might be able to buy an icon, a knife that you thought was as rare as the Holy Grail in your life that you'd never, ever spend what it took to own one of these. Maybe you could save some pennies, sell a $200 knife or two, and you might be able to buy, if you can make it make sense in your mind, a Sebenza. You might. In fact, you might be able to buy more than one. You might even get to a point where you think, well, now that I'm a collector of expensive production knives, even though I'm not even a big fan, maybe I'll buy a Strider. And that's sort of how it goes. Funny on the way up, that progression, when you're an owner of an Ontario Rat 2 and you think that's really as good a pocket knife as you're ever going to need, and you watch a video on a Chris Reeves Sebenza, and because you're kind of proud of your little rat and you fancy yourself a pretty smart guy, you might roll into the comments of the Sebenza video and say, that's ridiculous, only an idiot would spend $485 for a freaking pocket knife. That Sebenza won't do anything I can't do with my Rat 2. Yeah, we say it. And then guess what? 2-3 years later, same guy that left that comment buys one of these. You guys all know it. You guys who own expensive knives, you remember thinking that or leaving that comment, don't you? Yeah. That's how it goes. Well, the point of that little discussion, my friends, is that I've got a dear friend who's been he's been on that progression for a long while, and he's a very, very prudent man. And he loves knives, and it took him forever to make the decision to bust $100. The first knife he bought that was over $100 was the Benchmade 940. In fact, upon seeing with my own eyes and holding in my own hands his 940, I finally bought one after years of admiring it from afar. Well, that's about 2 years ago when my dear friend purchased his 940, and he stayed faithful to that $100 mark until now. In fact, you guys remember my little Insingo small Sebenza, the left-handed one? Yes, this guy I'm talking about is a lefty. I'm not going to tell you who he is. I'm going to let him do that. Well, is test driving my small Insingo for a couple weeks. While he has been in possession of it, he finally told me to find him his own small left-handed Sebenza. In fact, I have to have it right here with me. Came in this box with this stuff. Let's see. Styrofoam, warranty card. Little story about the vast array of awards that have been bestowed on Chris Reeve knives. Got the birth certificate, small Sebenza 21 left-handed, born September 25th, 2014. Swag. Microfiber cloth. And here it is. By the way, I don't want to forget to mention this. From Action Concepts, Boudreaux Marsh on eBay. James Marsh is who this knife came from. James is awesome to deal with, by the way. And here's the knife. This is it. You know, I better take my wedding ring off. Don't want to scuff it. Okay. You know, be careful, guys. Sebenzas are not to be flicked open. Oh, wait, yes they are. Oh my. Let's see. Look at that. Zero blade play. And nice free dropping action. Let's check outer centering. Huh, imagine that. And not exactly wearing its factory edge now, is it? We had this one sent directly to me so I could sharpen it, tune it, and send it to its home before Christmas. Let's see how I did. I don't think I've cut any paper with this yet. Oh, someone told me I should cut my paper more slowly. So I'm going to do that so I can find any snags in the edge. Well, I would find them if they were any. So there's a slice down, a couple slices down the full length of the blade. Let's see if it'll push. Apparently so. Okay, now let's do it my way. I really don't cut paper to test my edge. I've already done that. Usually I just do it, because it looks cool. Yeah. I think the new owner of this little Sebenza is going to be pretty happy. And guys, what a toil this has been for him. He agonized. He sold some knives, as many of us do, to buy this knife. Let me get some stuff out of the way here. It just didn't make sense in his head to spend $350 for a small Sebenza. But then it did. After listening to some trusted friends and learning about what makes a Sebenza, he made the resources available to do so. The clip is off this knife. I found a flaw with it, just a little bit of side-to-side play. So Angela at Chris Reeve Knives is sending me a new one, because I thought a guy who's getting his first Sebenza ought to have it perfect. Angela agreed. Isn't that something? Keep your eyes peeled, TheApostleP subscribers. I think most of you guys are going to already know where this knife is going, won't you? Just thought maybe he'd like to see it a few days before he gets it. Happy speculating, my friends. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word and my friend's Sebenza are sharp.